What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 8 of the Unite Asia podcast. My name is Riz. Before we get into the news, make sure that you're subscribing to our channel down below. Make sure you're clicking that bell, the notification bell, so you know what's up. The more that we get on this channel, the more people, the more subscribers, the more interactions, the more comments, the better it will be for our channel to be pushed out into searches and stuff like that, so that more people are aware of this podcast and more people get to hear what this podcast is all about. Every week, we spend a lot of time, spend actually hours putting this together, and the point of it is to really give and provide an opportunity for our guests to really talk about things that they care about. Why did they get into punk rock? Why did they get into hardcore? Not in the US, not in New York City, not in LA, not in London. We're talking about right here in Asia. So we get to hear their stories. It's stories that we don't often get to hear. So it's really important that you are helping us while we're helping our community as well. So make sure you click subscribe. Make sure you click that notification bell so you can keep spreading the word about our channel. All right. So here we go for the news. We've got a lot going on again. One of the things that we've seen this week is Nepali band Void Turned to Message dropped a music video off their upcoming EP. We'll talk more about that down below when we get to the Unite Asia's pick of the week. Next, another Nepali band, our friends in band called Strangle, very NYHC-inspired band, has just dropped their brand new album. It's out, it's streaming, go check it out. We've got another band from Taiwan called Dark Charbdis. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's Charybdis. That band from Taiwan, they just announced that they're going to release a new album. Next, we've got Envy, Japanese Screamo legends. They've just announced that they're going to be releasing a live album, and I believe it comes out in November. They've got one song streaming right now on Bandcamp. Go check that out. Another Japanese band, our friends Palm, heavy hardcore band. This band is just all over the shop, man. They got blast beats for days. This band has just announced a 2-song EP that's going to be coming out, so don't forget to check that out. An awesome Riot Girl-inspired post-punk band called The Vinyl Records from India. We've just been talking about them all week on both our Instagram page and our main website. They are a band from India, and they've just announced that they'll be releasing a new album or a new EP by the end of this year. So that's super exciting because the last album they released was probably 3 years ago, maybe 2017. It's streaming on our website. The old album, you should definitely check that out. But how exciting that they're about to drop a new album by the end of the year. Last but not least, we want to thank all of you because we finally reached 10,000 Instagram followers. So that's just an exciting thing because both Instagram and Facebook and any sort of social media we use, we've never put an advertisement out. We've never done any paid promotions or sponsored posts. It's all been word of mouth. That's the way I enjoy learning about things. I like to hear my friends talk about stuff, and then I'll check it out. I hate when an advertisement pops up or a sponsored post pops up, and it just kind of interferes with my daily whatever I'm doing with my life. So with Unite Asia, we've never done that. I've never paid for a post or a sponsored post. I've never done any of that type of promotional stuff. It's always been people who've been sharing the Facebook page or sharing the Instagram page or sharing the Twitter page, and then that spreads. So this week, suddenly we hit 10,000, which is amazing. It's a great feat for a small little independent website like ours. So it means a lot. Thank you to everybody that shares the website, shares Instagram, shares the Facebook, shares the YouTube channel that we're doing now, so that more and more people get to know. And that you're not forcing anyone. You're just like, hey, this is something that I'm into. I really support what this website's all about. Check it out if you've got time. If you like, click the like button and stuff like that. So we really appreciate that. Thank you for helping us reach 10,000. All right, Unite Asia picks of the week. We've got quite a bit today. We got 4 to talk about. One, we mentioned earlier, Void Turned to Message. Awesome Nepali band. They mix like metallic and hardcore, all mixed together into their sound. The best part, though, is the vocalist, man. That vocalist rips it to shreds. Listen to his voice. There's just so much coming out of this human being. It just really was very moving to listen to him. And so because of this song, because of that particular recording and his vocal delivery, I'm super pumped to hear this EP, and hopefully I think the EP will be out by the end of this year. So go check that out for sure. Void Turned to Message from Nepal. The next one is SMZB, our Chinese punk rock legends. The band's been added since, I think, 1996. They've just released their brand new album. And what's exciting about this new album is not only that it's from a great band like SMZB, but what's exciting about this album is, and kind of sad, is that the Chinese edition of this album has got 4 songs censored, and the album artwork is also censored. So what I would love for you all to do is definitely go check out the Bandcamp page and go support this band, because they put a lot on the line, literally putting their safety on the line, because they're singing about things that are deemed really sensitive, especially right now with everything that's going on in Hong Kong and Xinjiang and stuff like that. Go check out SMZB. Go support bands that are still about something, are still about challenging the system, challenge the situation that we're all in. Right? They're not just singing about love and whatever. They're talking about actually important things. Go check out SMZB. Next, we've got this awesome Hong Kong band full of teenagers called All Blacks, who've just released a ska version music video for a Rage song called Guerrilla Radio. This video just blew me away, man. I mean, it's a band full of teenagers, very young. I think the drummer is maybe 14 or something like that. The vocalist is insane. She's super young. Definitely go check that out. It's organized by a production company in Hong Kong called AMU6, who helps inspire teenagers to fall in love with music. So they, do all sorts of like musical education, teaching them how to play their instruments, putting them in studios and recording them, putting a music video together. You got to go support it, man. It's amazing. It's run by a good friend called Dr. Eggs is what I like to call him, his nickname, because he used to be a vocalist for an awesome band, very eclectic, and as a vocalist, this guy is crazy on stage, so inspiring to watch. He gives it his all. So he started this production company where he helps a bunch of like Hong Kong teenagers find their way to music, use it as an outlet or whatever it is. He's doing great stuff. As All Blacks is evidence of that. So go check out that music video, All Blacks. Last but not least, we've got Indonesian hardcore band called Final Attack, who just released a hilarious quarantine video. I believe the guitarist even has his little girl, his daughter, playing on a plastic guitar as well on this quarantine video. It's one of the funniest ones I've seen, and it's great because the band just rules. The music is hard as nails, but the music video is hilarious. So it's such a great mix. Go check all that stuff out. All right, Reader's Pick of the Week. We've got 3 that people have been talking about. Void turned a message again, man. These guys have made it, man. They were in their news section of this. They were in our Unite Asia Picks of the Week, and now they're in the Reader's Pick of the Week as well. Void turned a message, killing it. You definitely got to go support this band. If everyone is talking about it, it's got to be good. Emotional hardcore band Combative Post from Korea have released their album, and people are stoked about it. We did a massive review. Please read the review. Even the band was excited about the review that we put together. Definitely go read that. Our dude Arthur is our Unite Asia reviewer, and he does such a great job. He really, really gets in depth with songs. He puts in references, things that he thinks about, things that pop into his head about the music that he's reviewing. He does such an awesome job. So Combative Post have just released their second album called White Out, and bands and people all over the world are stoked on it. Go check that out. Roll Fast, an Indonesian band. This record that they released, actually wasn't this week, it was a couple of weeks ago. But this record they released is still on people's minds because it's such an eclectic mix of genres and styles. So let me read what the label has said about this. They said that they're a mix of EDM music. They've got some hip hop in there, some rock, experimental, jazz, all mixed into their sounds. It's insane. It really is such a great record. So I'm stoked that a reader was like, hey, this was old, but I want to bring it back up because it really is such a great record. So go check that out. Roll Fast from Indonesia. Okay, this week's interview. Super excited that it's an amazing vocalist, Phulee, from a band called Retromist from northeastern India. She gets into it. Oh my gosh, I am so happy that we're able to provide a platform for someone that is this outspoken and this vocal and a heart full of things that she just wants to express. So it's so rad to hear her story of how she got into hardcore and punk rock in northeastern India. She also talks about racism. She talks about gender issues. She talks about a lot of really important things that as a human being, as a male, I often want to hear. It helps enlighten me. It helps educate me. It helps me keep a little bit more open-minded and show a lot more compassion that not everyone is as lucky as someone that lives in Hong Kong or lives in the US or lives in London. People all over the world have their struggles. And so she does a really amazing job articulating all of that in this interview. So I really hope that you'll take the time to listen to it. Check out her band after you've listened to it. She also mentioned some quite political and social issues in the Northeast. She dropped some ideas and thoughts about laws that have been passed that I hope that after you're listening to this podcast, you will go and Google it. So you will learn more about the plight of the people of Northeastern India. It really is quite educational. It's quite enlightening. I hope you do enjoy this podcast. I hope you find something really important that you've learned from this, that you've taken from it, and that you're going to want to learn more about. Enjoy.
You know what? Just fuck the system.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 8 of the Unite Asia podcast. Today's guest comes from northeastern India, so I'm super stoked because last week we did from Pakistan, and this time we've got India, but not just India, northeastern India, so this is super exciting. I've got my good friend. She's the vocalist of a band called Retromist. Her name is Phulee. Phulee, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing fine, better. Well, I got my examination coming up soon, but, well, still gotta do what I gotta do.
So how old are you?
Well, I'm gonna turn 23 this December. So I'm kind of old, getting old.
You realize you're talking to a 43-year-old, right? So I've got a 20-year difference between you and me.
Well, it won't be long before I join the same wagon.
Right.
But yeah, when it comes to, since we brought up the age thing, most of the people think I'm like 17 or 18 when I hit the stage, and they don't know that I'm 22. So yeah.
All right, Phulee, I am so excited and I'm really thankful that you're willing to take the time to join this conversation so we can learn a little bit more about your community, your scene, about yourself, and especially because I know that you have a lot to say. You have a lot of things that you leave in your heart. So this will be a good opportunity for you to kind of just let it out, let the world know where you stand.
Well, first of all, the pleasure is all mine to be a part of this, and I really love Unite Asia, and I really love what it's doing. So it's an honor for me to be a part of this. Since should I be like starting with the background now?
See, you know the Unite Asia podcast so well, you know you're going to go right into the background. So let's talk about this, right, Phulee? Because I mean, a lot of people probably want to know, in terms of northeastern India and regular India, what is the difference between both places?
Well, the difference, India is a really diverse country, so it's different in all parts of the country. But the most interesting thing that I'm going to point out about Northeast is that, like, we live with different ethnicity out here in this place. Like, we have so many different tribes. Like, there's Naga, there's people like me, the Dimasa, and there's Mizo, there's Tripuri, there's Assamese, there's Kuki, and so many other tribes that people don't know of. That's pretty interesting. If people ever want to know or come to explore Northeast, they'll be wowed to see the number of ethnicity that lives in this place. So that would be the first difference I would point out. But if it's going to be about music, then, well, it's my place, so maybe I'm prejudiced, but I think it's right. I love the scene in Northeast.
Yeah, you were telling me before, too, that Northeastern has a very diverse music scene. Can you talk about a little bit more about what kind of bands are out there?
Here's the thing about Northeast. Like, yeah, well, you're right. Like, the scene out here is pretty varied. There are a lot of bands playing different kind of music, even starting from death metal to progressive to even Rag Girl. Like, there's literally a Rag Girl band. it's called the vinyl records. But the thing is that like it's specific to certain areas of Northeast. For example, like in Guwahati, like we do have a lot of bands like starting from death metal, which is agnostic. There's a band called Agnostic, and it's a death metal band. And then there are also a lot of progressive bands like Arsenic, Tyrannian, and there was also a band called Kymatics, I think, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, like so it's like that. And while in the BTC region, there's the slam community that's ruling the place, and then in other places like Manipur, there's also a couple of grindcore bands and death metal bands. Like that's where it's most prominent out there. So it's pretty variant, but at the same time it's spread across, in certain regions of Northeast India. Well, but I can say like what's the least popular.
What's the least?
I would say punk. Like punk really hasn't made its way. I mean, yeah, we do have the punk scene out there in Northeast, but it is not as big as the metal scene. That I can say.
And don't you think that's like the case almost everywhere in the world? I mean, like if you think about regular India too, punk rock is not that big. Pakistan, punk is not that big. Hong Kong, punk is like basically non-existent. Maybe there's like 3 or 4 bands. It's very interesting. So in the Northeast, it's the same thing too, huh?
Yeah, it pretty much is everywhere. Well, maybe that's because people are digging towards the name, digging towards the tag. It's a brutal music, it's a deadly music. A lot of people can't take it. Maybe that's the thing that makes metal really popular, and a lot of people don't consider punk that way, because most of the people that know punk is from the really popular pop punk bands like Green Day or Blink-182, etc. So that's why they just move on to that kind of mentality, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine if their only reference to punk rock is Blink-182 and Green Day, and they want to hear heavy stuff, that's not going to be what they want to hear at all. Now, Phulee, let's talk about, like you already know, we're going to go back into your history, right? We're going to find out how does someone in the northeast of India find their way to hardcore, because your band Retromist is such a great band, but we don't want to jump into that part. First, we want to talk about young Phulee. I mean, you're already young, but younger Phulee. How did you find your way to music? Did your family already listen to music? Did you already have music at home? How did you get your way to heavier music?
Well, my story is pretty ordinary. It's the same as about any other girl who got into the music. I was just a person who was just into studies and wanted to, become successful, become rich, and buy a huge house for my parents living with a fat wallet and this and that. So that was the only goal. So music was not really something I hoped to do for the rest of my life or for a really long time, or something that I would do as passionately as I'm doing right now. So when I first started out, when I was a kid, I wouldn't listen to one specific kind of music or anything. I would listen to a mixture, like whatever my brothers would bring, from metal to pop to what's it called, Bollywood, to everything. It was a mixture. So because I never really paid like serious attention to this and that. What the hell? Can you have it? So. Yeah.
Oh, is it a blackout?
Yeah, that happens here a lot.
That happens in Pakistan a lot too.
Yeah, I'm guessing they don't really have this inverter thing, but it's okay. So.
All right, so keep going. So you stopped at that. What your brothers were showing you.
Yeah. So I would just take in everything my brothers would bring, from metal to pop, etc. But if we're gonna specifically talk about the heavy music, so it started out with those bands, the gateway bands, the typical gateway bands like Lamb of God or Slipknot or Silver Bottom or Pantera, or all those kind of bands. Even Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin, those were the bands. I wouldn't listen to the bands. Okay, it would just be a couple of songs, that comes in a CD, mixed with the songs. So that's how I came across heavy music. I didn't like it at first, but it just grew on me with time, and then I became a fan of it. Like I would love it, but not entirely as dedicated as I am right now. It just happened very recently, when I was in college, when I met my guitarist, that I started taking it seriously. And when it comes to hardcore, it's I got into the hardcore scene, or the punk scene, very recently. It was after 2017. And after that, there was no looking back. I started adopting the ideology because that's what I like the genre for, the ideologies, whatever this stood for, the ethos of the punk music. I really like that. So I've been adopting it, and we've organized a couple of DIY shows, this and that. So yeah, that's how it is.
Wow, thank you for that amazing summary. But we're gonna start taking that apart a little bit. Now, you said a lot of really cool things. So your brothers were the ones that were kind of showing you all of these great bands, and that's so cool that you had family that were showing you all this stuff. But the interesting thing, hopefully everyone heard it, is what you said. You're like, I actually wasn't a fan of it first. So can you talk about what was it that you did not like about it first?
Well, I think it's the same as about every other person who's not really a metal fan. Well, I used to find it hard to, understand the lyrics and vocals. Like, usually when you listen to pop songs, you kind of listen to the vocals. Suppose it goes like, so it's gonna be forever. So you hear the words and then you can, hum it in the bathroom or your bedroom or somewhere. But that was not the case with metal music. So I guess that was the reason why I didn't really like it at first, because it was kind of loud. But then I got into it because of the music. The music was really, no one can deny this. Heavy music is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. That's a great way to say it. Like, I mean, a lot of people, even my own daughter right now, like when she listens to heavy music, it's too loud for her. She can't hear the lyrics. She doesn't understand what the singers are singing. So when I think you said that you were probably in college when suddenly it started to make sense to you. Not hardcore and punk rock yet. You're talking about just metal, the gateway band started to make sense to you. And what was the reason that it started to make sense to you, though?
Well, I grew, no, well, here's a little bit of confusion. Well, I got into metal music even before that. Like the time when I got into punk music, that was when I was in college.
Oh,
But
gotcha.
I grew into metal music even before that. Like not dedicating myself to the music, but I would like it. Like I was a fan of it. So, well, if you were gonna still ask the reason, then it would be. It was just the music. I still did not pay attention to the lyrics. It was just the music. For example, I would say one of the bands that I really liked for the music was Pantera. Like there's this song called Cowboys from Hell, right? So those kind of music that kind of caught on to me, and that's how I got into metal music. But it was not the lyrics. So that's one of the reasons why maybe I didn't really get into heavy music right away.
Right. I mean, I agree with you 100%. Even when I was a kid, I never listened to the lyrics. I mean, I have all these records back here, like all of my like old childhood favorite bands. And seriously, maybe I only looked at the lyrics maybe a couple of years ago. Because when I grew up, I was like, I don't know about you, but for me, the music was like a soundtrack. It was like a soundtrack to like a lot of like trauma, a lot of hard feelings that I had growing up in a very traditional Pakistani family and dealing with my family and dealing with school and dealing with life in general, that heavy music was loud enough that it was my escape. It was my escape. And that's all I cared about was the music. I didn't care about the lyrics until much later when I heard about hardcore bands and punk rock bands. So for you, was it similar? Was heavy music some sort of escape, or did it bring you some sort of comfort or something?
It's gonna sound funny, but I just thought it makes me cool. That's why I listened to it. Well, maybe as an escape too. I never really gave a thought to it. I just liked it. I just thought that it made me feel, better. Like it made me feel cooler, I had a really low self-esteem growing up. So listening to that kind of music kind of made me feel like I was better in my own way. I was, it gave me confidence, I would say.
Right, and that's so cool, and you're right. I mean, like that's the power of this type of heavy music. It's like this secret thing that we have that we love so much, and for us, we're like, you have no idea, right? Like the outside world, you have no idea what you're listening to. What I'm listening to is incredible, right? And you're right, it does give you some sort of confidence, like you feel like you're cooler than everybody else. But of course, you know that I'm all about hardcore and punk rock. I love metal. I mean, this whole wall back here is pretty much all full of metal. But hardcore and punk rock is my love, is my passion. So I can't wait, Phulee, for you to start talking about when you were finally in college and you already been listening to Lamb of God, you've heard Black Sabbath, you liked Iron Maiden and all that stuff. Musically, it was great. But you said the first time you heard hardcore and punk rock and learned that, you're like, oh, there's so much more to heavy music. Please tell us how you got into hardcore.
Well, yeah. I got introduced to hardcore music because of my guitarist. She would listen to a couple of bands like Code Orange and this and that. So I got into the music, but I just listened to it for the sake of it. But I didn't really, dig into it. I didn't really like it as much as I like it now. It happens after I started listening to Crass, and Ostwatton. It was not just listening, it was a little bit of research too. I was checking the lyrics for this song called Big Lile and Bata Model and all of those songs from Crass, and then even the song called The Second Rape from Ostwatton.
Every 45 seconds, a woman is raped. Our sex is gone, she lost no escape. It's far from crime, it's far from obscurity. When the rate of victims is 1 in 3. Society conditions, let it be rapists.
So I read the lyrics and I was like really wowed. Like, there are bands that sing about stuff that really matters, that people don't really talk about, that the stuff that could get them in jail, and something that people shy away from. So that really wowed me, and that's how I really got into hardcore. And like I said before, after that there was no looking back. I was totally into it. It's like a deep ocean, You keep on diving in, you see more diverse species, more something that you get awestruck with, all those kind of things. It was exactly like that, like an ocean.
That's such a cool way to say it. So Crass was the band that really got you. And I like how you said that the music was kind of cool. You're like, yeah, great. The music is great, but it's the lyrics. When you opened up the lyrics, you started reading the lyrics, you're like, your brain was like, what? People sing about this type of stuff? And I think that was my experience too when I first heard hardcore bands. I was like, the music was okay. I was a metalhead, so I didn't really like punk rock at all because I was like, it's all power chords. But you're right. When I first read the lyrics, I was like, oh my gosh, I relate to these lyrics. This sounds like they're singing about me and my life.
I guess that's, I don't know if I'm wrong, but I kind of feel like that's the story with most of the people who are into hardcore and punk music. Like, they like the genre not for the music solely. They like it for the lyrics and for the stuff they stand for, for the stuff they speak about through their songs. I think that is the reason. Otherwise, if we're going to talk about it musically, the punk music are not as complex as other genres of metal, It's very minimalistic. And a lot of time, that's one of the reasons why, punk people or punk musicians get mocked at by, metal musicians, a couple of metal musicians, not all of them. So maybe that could be the reason. So it's just all about ideology, not about the complex music, this and shredding stuff.
But you're right. I mean, I think the minimalistic approach to hardcore punk rock has a purpose, right? There's a purpose to it because they're saying the lyrics are so important. It's almost like a sense of emergency. And so we can't waste it like twiddling on our guitars or like this effect, that layer. They're like, no, I need you to listen to this now and I need you to change right now.
Yeah.
So it's straight and direct and they plug right into an amp and go. It's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is. And that's why I like hardcore music now.
So let's go a little bit further then. So you got into Crass, Ostwatton, and your guitarist right now helped you kind of find your way into this. So you read the lyrics. What is the next thing you do to learn more about hardcore? Were you like, I need to know more about this?
Yeah, and I started, checking, listening to all the other bands and reading the lyrics and reading about the stuff that, punk people stand for, like the straight edge, the veganism and all those things. And that was really inspiring. For me, when I first got into the scene, I'm a newbie, so I thought like most of the people were all about substance and, like the brutal stuff that they show with death metal and stuff. But getting into that music, it made me realize that there are musicians who really have that compassion. And I'm telling you, compassion is really one of the best, one of the most needed feeling in this world. And you don't really have to be, I'm brutal, I can beat up this, I can beat up that, to be cool. So those are the cool musicians that I really look up to.
That's great. I mean, that's exactly, I mean, you and I are speaking the same language. That to me is like the beauty of hardcore and punk rock too. It's about bringing people together who are already interested in what's going on in the world, who are already interested in what's going on in their community, and are already the type of people like, how can I help that person? How can I help that person? And they're like, oh, I can use music to talk about racism. I could use music to talk about LGBTQ rights. I could use music to talk about sexism and gender issues. And that's the beauty of this music, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so you've got into then reading more, learning more about the lyrics, learning more about the ideology and the ethos, and then you said that once you got into it, like it's been no turning back. So with Retromist, you started in 2017, right?
September, it was 2017, November 4th. I remember the
You remember the date. Now, before you got into the band, because before we get into Retromist, I still want to know, you told us about how you got into music, how you got into heavy music from your brothers, then how you started to find your way to hardcore and punk rock. But by 2017, had you started playing music yet?
No, definitely not. It's weird because none of us had an intent, like none of the members had an intention to become musicians. My guitarist already started playing guitar, but she never really thought of forming a band or being a real guitarist. Same thing with me. I never thought I'd be a vocalist. I mean, I did try singing when I was a kid, but they were all cleans. I started screaming in the year 2018. So it just happened as a hobby, and we just started getting serious about it just like that, with the hobby. I seriously don't know. Yeah.
Because I think it's always interesting. A lot of guys find their way to bands all the time, and unfortunately not a lot of females find their way. There are a lot of females that play in bands, of course, but I don't find a lot of females find their way to heavy music and start wanting to play in heavy music. So with you going to college, what was like the little catalyst or the spark where you're like, hey, maybe we could try to play in a band?
It's not going to sound pleasant, that's all I can say, for a lot of people, because like I said, I wasn't really into the music or I wasn't into anything. I was just into studies. So the catalyst was just a revenge story. Like there was just a couple of my friends who were musicians who were like the typical musicians, who were like, yeah, I can do this, I can play this and that, I'm really good. So I was kind of not jealous, but I wanted to get a revenge on them, okay, you guys are doing that, maybe I can do better than you, So that was just a catalyst, I didn't really have an ulterior motive that I was going to speak about the politics or speak about racism out here or speak about feminism or girl. I didn't have that kind of ulterior motive. It developed later on. But the first thing that started the band was just a revenge story against a couple of my friends who were showing off than me. Yeah.
That sounds like the beginning of a hardcore band, 100%. So, do you remember the conversation that you and your guitarist had? Or maybe, let's go back a little bit more. In your community, do you have a lot of females involved in heavy bands?
No, actually, I would say there are. When we first started off, it was just me and my guitarist. Maybe because my circle wasn't really big. Maybe I didn't know there were other people too. So it was just her and me. But as we grew, together as a band and when people started finding out about us, so that's when I realized that there are people who are listeners, not necessarily musicians who hit the stage and are active in the scene, but they are there as listeners, I could say, if that counts.
Yeah, of course. That definitely counts. I think that's amazing that after your band started, you were starting to notice that hidden around your community, there are females that actually enjoy this music. That's a great thing. And I've had this conversation with other female guests on the stage on United AsiaPodcast too, that once they saw people on stage that looked like them, that could sound like them, that could play music like they were playing, it showed representation and gave them enough courage to be like, oh, I'm going to try that too. So it sounds like you are that person, right? You and your guitars are those people that are going to inspire others, hopefully.
I don't know. It's kind of embarrassing to admit to that. Would I sound like an arrogant bastard if I admit to that? But I do have some other people who I look up to like that encourage me to be on stage and to be very vocal about things. There are a couple of people.
Oh, good. So when you were starting, I think you actually told me when you first started Retromist, you weren't a hardcore metal band in the beginning, right? When you first started, what was your journey?
Retromist was a mess in the beginning. Like it always is. We were just a bunch of kids who were very spontaneous. Like I said, in just a small span of time, just a matter of months, just a month or a couple of months. It was just in that span of time we changed from. It was supposed to be rock. We changed from rock to doom metal to sludge to this fast-paced music or whatever stuff we're playing right now. I can't really call it hardcore specifically because we don't really fit in that box. But that's the development from rock to doom to sludge to whatever we're playing right now.
I feel like the whole journey is so funny that you went from rock to doom metal to sludge to whatever you are playing now, which is great. It's so funny that you were just trying to find your sound. So after you went through all these different styles and genres, why did you guys settle on what you're doing now?
Well, like I said, it's because of this stuff that the punk music sing about. Like about the musical styles, it's all based on the interest and the musical taste of all the other musicians. But if we're gonna talk about the ideology and stuff that we sing about, it's all because of because how we got influenced by those punk bands, the stuff that they sing about. Like, it's really inspiring. So that's why we settled on this. Like, we want to talk about stuff that really matters, and we want to put it out in the world, because a lot of people don't talk about, like, the politics that's going on in Northeast. I mean, it's kind of neglected in a way. I'm not sure if you know this person. There's this person called Others. So we kind of, like, he's one of the first people that I met that listened to the same kind of music. So we started jamming with him, and that's how when we started experimenting and settle on that kind of sound. So he's this drummer of this band called Sci-Fi Like for Me.
And was he the drummer at the time?
He was not really a permanent drummer. He was just helping us out because, yeah, that's where the part comes in. He was just helping us out because a lot of people wouldn't take women musicians seriously. They would just, half of them would just, come to jam with us because they want to date one of us, or half of them would never even want to jam with us because they don't really take us seriously because they think we suck. And maybe we did, but he was just one of those people who helped us out in the beginning. So yeah, even though he doesn't jam with us anymore, but he's still a part of our, he's still a part of us.
Yeah, and I want to thank him too. Good for you, man. That's a great thing to do, to reach out and help out people. So when you first started, it was just you two, and when you were looking for other members, you guys got a lot of pushback.
Yeah, it was pretty tough. It really is very tough for women to start off out here. I don't know, maybe things might change now, but when we first started, like, there was nobody who wanted to jam with us because maybe we did suck, but like nobody really even wanted to give a try to jam with us or to make it work with us. So it was really tough. It was really, really tough. It wasn't until late 2018 or 2019 that we got settled, as a band. Oh, it was 2019. Yeah, it was 2019 or 20. Yeah, it was 19. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was 2019 where you started putting live shows. Is that when you first started playing live shows?
Well, we started playing live shows with others, with just the two of us in the band. Like, it was just me and my guitarist. It was just the two of us, and we started playing live. Like, the live that you put up, the first live that you put out first, that was just the two of us, like me and my guitarist. Like, we were touring with like different drummers, like as much drummer as we can find. So that's how it was. It was just the two of us for the first beginning of the Retromist, yeah.
Okay, and now if you could take us back to like that first show, because like you said, like you had no aspirations to play music. Your guitarist also had no aspirations to play music. So that was your very first show. Like, did it suck? Did you do a good job? Like, do you remember that first show?
Well, I think you can already guess how the first show usually goes. It was a disaster. I couldn't scream for help because it was my first time. I didn't really have stage fright because even though I wasn't a vocalist, even though I wasn't a singer, but I had stage experiences even as a kid. But I couldn't scream, and we didn't have the band chemistry together because it was our first show. None of us had experience playing guitar on stage or me singing on stage. So it was a total disaster. And the weird thing, just the opposite to what we stand for right now, it was a competition. It was a college competition.
Oh.
And we did the song "Fuck the System" in a college.
That is funny. So that first show was a complete disaster. Did you feel discouraged, or did you go back and practice harder? What was the next step for you guys?
Of course not. We wouldn't get discouraged. Oh my gosh. We're two stubborn people and we don't really get discouraged. And I don't know why. Like, there's been so many setbacks when we started off Retromist. Like, we sucked. We got really bad comments from people. Well, we got positive comments too, but then we got bad comments too. And then there were times when we would just, hang out in my guitarist's place and we would be depressed. Like, what are we going to do next? We're gonna find a drummer. Like, there were times when we feel really low, but no way we'd give up. Like whenever we get an offer for a show, we just try to wing it somehow, to get someone as a drummer or to play. No matter what, we would just try to do it. No way we were gonna give up.
What a great attitude. That's such a great attitude, because bands have to do that. Artists have to do that. Everyone has to start somewhere, right? Like, if your first trial sucks and you give up, you're never going to try again. You're never going to get better. And like, if you watch your Retromist videos now, you guys are amazing now.
Even, like, here's the thing. The part that people see on stage, that's just a fraction of it. But the struggles that we had to go through, okay? And it's not the struggle that all the other bands face, okay? For example, like, we have college and stuff, and then we had to do shows even during there's a thing called strike, like, where the vehicles don't run and there's a curfew, but we still had to go through all that, to appear for a show. I think it was for a gang talk show in the year 2019, January, I guess. There was a curfew in Shillong, but we barely made through it, just for that show, and we stayed at the friend's place to jam. And my guitarist, her parents, they don't know shit about it. Like, she's toured all around Northeast and her parents don't know shit about it. The way we pull it off, it's really funny. Like, she'd tell her parents that she's at my place and we'd do video calls, and then we'd put up some backgrounds, make it seem like she's at my place. We do weird stuff just to play on stage. It's really weird how can a bunch of people do that kind of crazy thing just to get on stage and say fuck the system, lol.
But it sounds like to me that the message and the purpose of your band and like how this is giving your life some meaning is so important that even if people are making fun of you guys or are saying really mean comments or whatever, you're like, I don't care. I really don't care. This is so important to me that I'll keep doing it no matter what.
Yeah,
so good for
but
you.
Here's the thing. I'm not sure if a lot of musicians can relate to this, but here's the thing. First of all, we have a purpose that we want to relay the message out there to the people. But the second thing is that we have fun doing it. We really love that. Like, we have fun going on stage and doing that. We love playing it. So yeah, I guess that's one of the reasons why I'm more interested in that than the studies right now.
All right. So now with Retromist, after that friend helped you out, and he started helping you play some shows, when you started playing shows more often, what was the reaction from the audience? Because you already said, like, there aren't a lot of girls playing heavy music in the scene that you're from. So what was the first reaction from people? Were people encouraging? Were they more like, you guys suck?
Like, when we first started off, there were a section of people who were supportive of us. Like, they wanted us to keep on doing it and inspire more women to hit the stage and be vocal about things. And then there were a section of people who would not even consider us as musicians. They would just, brush us off like, oh, they're just getting it because they're girls. They're just doing that show because they're girls. Well, the guitarist is just playing like one string. What the hell is she even playing? And is she even screaming? Like, what the hell is she singing? We get a lot of comments, so it's divided. Like, there's a section that's supportive, there's a section that's really mean, and
yeah, and I think that's the case for any band. So that actually sounds like a typical situation for many bands, where some people will get it, a lot of people won't get it. And you can focus on this if you'd like, or you can focus on that and just keep going straight. And it sounds like you focus on the people that are supporting you. Or it could be like you were saying, you're like, actually, we didn't care if people supported us or not. We were enjoying what we were doing, and we found like we had a purpose. It sounds more like that. You're like, I don't care if the audience gets us or not.
I would say the kind of music that's really popular in the region where we started, that is in Guwahati, it's progressive metal, like the really complex stuff with odd time signatures, that requires really musical, expertise, etc. So when we first started off, nobody understood us, and so we were just looked upon as, bunch of musicians that were playing, some messy stuff, I guess.
Yeah, even in Hong Kong, that stuff is probably the most popular type of heavy music is progressive metal or progressive metalcore. Anything that's very technical, people in Hong Kong love that for heavy music. So Phulee, thank you so much for sharing all this other stuff that you've talked about with your community and your scene. One thing that I definitely want to hear about is what are some of the things that you in Retromist sing about? Because like you said, it's the ideology of hardcore is so important. Punk rock, you learn so much from Crass. So I'm super excited to know what are some things that Retromist sings about.
Okay, yeah, we sing about a lot of things, but there's one thing that I put a lot of focus on. It's this rule called the ASP8. It's Armed Forces Special Power Act, the act that gives special power to the armed forces to arrest whoever they want or take even not necessary brutal measures if they deem necessary. So I really don't find it fair, and I find it against the basic human rights, to do that. It's against human freedom to do that. So there's also been a lot of bad incidents, I would say, that's happened because of the rule. I personally had one experience. My friend, who was not necessarily a punk fan or anything, he just liked the style, so he had this mohawk and he was roaming around the market area with the hairstyle. So it was a time when there were militants in our place, so the armed forces kind of started checking on him if he had anything suspicious, by thinking that he was the part of the militant community. So he just asked one question to those people, just said, "Kya hua bhai?" which means what happened, brother? And he just got slapped, in public for that, just for that, and that's just one of the subtle incidents that happened. That wasn't even serious. He just got slapped, even though it's serious, but it's not as serious as it happened in other places. Like example, there were bombings too, like Mizoram was bombed in the year something, which I forgot. I'm really bad with dates. And then the people, my father's neighbor, they died because they were called on for inspection at 3 a.m. in the morning in the year 1990 or something like that. It was the Sikh regiment because of the rule. And then there were a lot of other incidents too, where the armed forces would, because they got power, a lot of people won't even talk about it. If you look into the issues, that happened in Manipur, there were cases, or there were the reports that the armed forces even raped a couple of women. And the women of Manipur, they protested, naked, because they found it unfair. So a lot of things happen because of the rules. So that's one specific thing that I really want to put my focus on, and I really want this rule to be eradicated. So that's the stuff that I really, pay attention to when I write the lyrics for Retromist.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. I had no idea about any of that stuff. Can you tell us the law? Spell the law again? What was it again?
It's AFSPA, Armed Forces Special Power Act.
So one thing that hopefully when people are listening to this podcast, the first thing they do is go Google that. Google that so you know what's going on in the Northeast, and you can support the people in the Northeast so that this stuff can be eradicated. And the more that the public is aware of it outside of India, hopefully there'll be more pressure on the government in the Northeast to get rid of this. And this has been around for a long time, you said, right?
Yeah. I think it was enacted in the year 1956 at first, if I'm not wrong. 1956, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, Armed Forces Special Power Act 1956. Yeah, it's been in existing since then. And yeah, it's a very terrible law. And well, a lot of stuff happened because of that. Even there was this another law called CAA. I don't want to talk about it because that's a really sensitive topic. It has diverse opinions, for the law. But I'm personally against the law because there's a lot of complication to it. People, if you don't understand, the people out here and the stuff that the indigenous people have to go through too.
I do appreciate that you're being so honest, and you're right. The CAA sounds very complicated, and as a Muslim myself, when I first heard about the CAA, I was devastated. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that anyone would even support it. That's how stupid Modi and his crew is, obviously. But so, Phulee, one other thing that I've always wanted to talk about with you, or for anyone from India, is that you've told me that in the Northeast, that Central India, you have sensed or have felt or have heard about a lot of racism towards you because you look different and they look different from the Central Indian people as well. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, a lot of people don't talk about it, but here's the thing: racism is real in out here in India. So, I'm not going to generalize the entire population of Central India, because there are people who are nice towards us, who are accepting towards us, and they don't really discriminate based on the facial structures or features. But there are a section of people who are racist because they think we look different. And we are, to be honest, we are kind of a little different. One incident that I can narrate is that it happened very recently after the pandemic broke out. So a Manipuri girl was spat on because she was different. She looked different, and she was called Corona and Chinese because we kind of have those features. I don't know if that makes me sound a racist. I'm not trying to be a racist, but yeah, because of that, like, they call us Chinky, they call us Chinese, and they do those kind of stuff. And there are a lot of other incidents too that's not really coming in my head right now, but a lot of stuff has happened, and racism is real. Although I'm not going to point everybody for that.
Yeah, of course. Like you're saying, I mean, 1.2 billion people, you can't generalize that. But you're saying that for a small contingent of people, they are very racist towards you because you guys look different. Now, is that because, is that also Northeastern people that live in any part of India? They feel like they get that a lot?
Yeah. Well, I'm not, I can't speak for everybody. Maybe some people have it a little better. Maybe some people do, but I've heard from a lot of people who stayed outside for studies or other purposes that have come across at least one incident in their life where they've been subjected to racism. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, it's so sad to hear that stuff exists. But one thing I know that you've talked about before is with Retromist, you are hoping that this band is a vehicle to talk about these types of issues, these types of things that you're dealing with, the racism, the stuff about the law that you're talking about. So with Retromist, are you guys eventually hoping to go tour Central India? Because I think would be something that would be quite helpful to you guys.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely love to tour Central India. Not for other reasons, but for one reason is that, like, we need them to live peacefully. We can't really build this love. We can't really build this connection by separating ourselves. We have to put our hands forward for us to live mutually, right? So that's why I would love to go and mingle out there with the people, to know and to tell them, that it hurts us and that we're not different. We're all the same. We're all human beings too, and you can't treat us like that just because we live differently. I mean, just because we look different. And another thing is that I would also tell them to stop calling us junglies because we live in less developed areas, or discriminate us because we have different, lives. I'm going to tell them all, honestly, and I'm going to be friends with them. I'm going to meet also the people who are nice towards us, So yeah, I would love to do that.
Right, because I mean, imagine how powerful it would be for women to be on stage playing heavy music. Everyone's getting into it. Everyone's having a really good time. And then you stop and you give them a speech about jungly and be like, this term is so demeaning. It's so horrible for us to hear when people call us jungly and stuff like that. It would be so powerful for you to do that.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like, my dear, you're doing an amazing job. Your band rules. Everything that you do with your band, everything that you've taken in through hardcore and learning about punk rock, you're putting it all through your band with the purpose that you want to inspire and educate everybody around you, which is such a great and powerful thing to do. To end this interview, Phulee, because I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours, but we have to end it. To end this interview, Phulee, what are some things that last words that you want to share with the audience listening?
Well, what I'd like to share is that we don't really learn everything all by ourselves. We learn stuff from people. We imbibe character. We imbibe opinions. We imbibe things from other people. So these are not the things that I learned all by myself. And these are not only my opinion. I've spoken to a lot of people about all these issues, about all this stuff, even about music. I talk about it with my guitarist and all the other people a lot. So one thing that I would love to, like before I end this, I would love to give credits to this one person called Aditya Bakshi, who knows a lot of stuff about these things, and I think one should really send him friend requests and talk to him, and check out his posts, etc. and stuff, and check out this page called the Indian Decolonization or Decolonial Indianism or something like that. I'm just going to put it on my social media after a couple of hours. So definitely needs to check out to see what's actually going on in Northeast. And that's how I get my sources from, and from people and from whatever I've suffered. So, and the thing is, and people who are watching this don't necessarily have to agree to everything that I've said. If I've said something wrong, they can come to me and tell me nicely, politely. I'll give it a thought. I'll listen to it. If I think whatever they told me is wrong, I'm gonna correct them or whatever it is. We could have a discussion. So that is the thing, and I want them to check out what's going on in the Northeast and in Hong Kong too, because I know Hong Kong is going through a lot of shit too. So like, stand with Hong Kong, stand with Northeast, stand with what's right, stand with what's right, and stand strong, and don't be afraid to say what's wrong. That's what I want to say to all the people, and please support the musicians, support all the people. We have no idea what they have to go through just to make out all these things. And yeah, that's what I would like to say.
Thank you very much, Phulee, especially for someone from Hong Kong. Thank you very much for your kind words. Now, Phulee, what I'll do is all the stuff that you just mentioned, those links, I'll put it in the description below, okay?
Okay.
All right. That's it, Phulee. Thank you so much for your time. Safe travels. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really been an honor. Thank you.
That's it, everyone. We've come to the end of episode 8 of the United Asia podcast. Huge thank you to Phulee for being so open and candid and using this opportunity to really express herself on our podcast. I hope you definitely go check out Retromist. Hopefully they'll be releasing some new music sometime soon. She was able to give us a little bit of a clip of a song that they have recorded. I don't know when the official release of that track is or any music from the band, but please keep yourself up to date. Please go check out all the things that she was talking about so you can keep yourself informed of the plight of the people of northeastern India. See you next week. Peace.
Look at what we've been through. Look at what we've been through. Time has come for me, yeah, you too.